We have a brief child-friendly sermon today because we have graduation honors to do for kids. So, in the reading from the book of Revelation, it said that the sheep who is sitting on the throne becomes the shepherd. Now, I would like to know, how can you be a sheep and a shepherd? One's an animal, one's a person taking care of the sheep, right? Well, I'll give you a couple examples that made me help understand how a sheep could be a shepherd. Many years ago, I was hiking through Ireland with a friend of mine. It's not called hiking in Ireland and the United Kingdom. It is called walking. And they don't have trails with signs that say, here's the Walker Loop and here's Blue Lake. It's a book with a little map, and it says, walk until you see the mountain and then turn east until you see the turnstile, and then find the gravel path and maybe you'll get there by tonight. So I was following my friend very closely because I didn't want to get lost. Now, any of you who have been in Ireland and other England, Scotland, know that sheep wander everywhere. They're in the roads, they're in the valleys, they're in the pastures, they're in the cities. They sometimes come running through at 5 o'clock to get their water. They stop traffic on the little country roads. And I'm so used to the United States where we keep sheep penned and very controlled. You know, they're just off in a barn somewhere, or they're penned in very carefully. They'll never get on a road. As we were walking, we ran into a real live shepherd, an Irishman, and he was dressed like this. This is an actual Irish wool cap, and he had on a field jacket, like this one, sort of. So he had shelter from the rain and the sun, and he had all the pockets he needed for his gadgets and gizmos. And I said, well, hello. And he was watching us walk through his land, because you get to walk through farmers' and ranchers' lands in those countries. And I said, I've noticed that the sheep just go everywhere, in the verdant pastures and along the rocks and down by the river. And I said, don't they get lost? How do they come home? And he said, my sheep know my voice. They know me and they come. I thought, really? And he said, and he had a cute little sheepdog, black and white sheepdog. And he said, and I said, well, what if one of them actually gets lost or falls off a cliff or something? And he said, he'll find them and bring them back. That's what Jesus does, right? As a shepherd, he says, my sheep, meaning the followers of Jesus, know my voice, and they will follow me, no matter how far away they are. And also, Jesus lets us to be free who we are. We can wander. We can be from every tribe and language and people and nation. And yet, somehow, all over the world, people hear this voice of Jesus and follow him. Now, where do we get the voice of Jesus? We get it from stories in the Bible, right? We actually hear him talking, things he was reported to have said. I'm going to get out of this now, okay, because it's getting a little hot. Things he was reported to have said. And we also have his actions, things he did, taking care of people, forgiving people, protecting people, noticing the forgotten and the unloved people. We had his words and his actions, and that's how we know his voice and what to do. But then how does a sheep become a shepherd? Well, I was in Iona, which is a little island of Scotland off on the western side of Scotland in the Northern Irish Sea. It's 3 miles long and 1 mile wide, and it has a lot of sheep on it. And there's one hill on the whole island, and it's called Dunee, which means the hill of Iona. And everybody said, you have to walk to the top of Dunee and look down at the ocean. It's an amazing view. So a fellow pilgrim and I walked up it one day, and just imagine, if you've ever seen England or Ireland or Scotland, bright green grass and flowing brooks and rocks jutting out at places. And we found our way fairly easy up to the top of the hill. And then at the top of the hill, we wandered around. Oh, look at the North Irish Sea. Oh, we could see St. Columba's Bay. We were just singing St. Columba's tune there. And it was gorgeous. And after we had wandered around a while, we said, okay, we should go back for dinner. Except we started walking down the hill and we said, no, wait, that's That's water. We can't go there. We tried, let's go over here. No, rocks, can't go there. And we were lost. We could not figure out how to get home. But then some sheep came up to us. About 15 fat white sheep, and then a little baby lamb, very little, like a little 6-month-old puppy. Very white, very cute. And I stepped back because I had been taught in science nature walks, don't get in between a baby animal and her mommy, right? Never get between the mother and the baby animal. So I said, let's step back from the baby. Well, the baby walked right up to me, got right up to me. And I had my hand down here, and she licked my hand. And I thought, oh, that's cute. That's very cute. But I still, I'm not going to pet the baby lamb. And then, a little bit later, they all just started wandering down the hill. And I said, let's follow the sheep. And we got down the hill. We followed the sheep. Now, why do I mention this? As followers of Jesus, we are sheep. He provides us with green pastures and water and sets the table before us. But there are times also when the sheep becomes the shepherd, when we need to lead. How do people who have never heard the voice of Jesus, never had the benefit of Jesus in their life, never felt the grace of God in their life, how do they find out unless some of the sheep become shepherds and lead people who don't know? And how would we do that? How would we lead the way Jesus would lead? We don't control people. We say, you better be Christian or else. You better be in my church or else. No, we imitate his words. What did Jesus say? What did Jesus do? He forgave. He loved. He was gracious. He was generous. He took care of people in trouble. What did he not do? He didn't gossip. He didn't spread hatred, no lying, no meanness, no cruelty. And he took care of people. He healed people. This is how we can bring people to the verdant pastures that God has for all of us. All we need to do is follow him. And then when we find others who are lost, we send out somebody and say, come this way. We are sheep and we are shepherds. Amen.